What's up, guys? Welcome to the Saturday show. This is the show where we like to go back through the week, take a look at all the little bits of news, see what you guys had to say, and respond to your comments. It's a lot of fun. We get to see different perspectives on the different topics, and if you missed a day, you can pretty much catch up for the most part, but you do want to check out some of the smaller topics as well, but we'll go through some of the big ones. Now, I am at Too Many Games today, so unfortunately, I had to film this Thursday rather than Friday, so I couldn't get to any of the Friday stuff, but maybe next week I'll go back to this Friday and just do one long one so we can get everybody caught up and get everyone's comments in that we can. But first, let's also start with, yes, the Steam sale. The Steam sale is now going. They do have their summer sales and it is now happening, and yes, everything is very cheap right now, but also remember, most of the time, if you're like me, you buy the stuff that's very, very cheap, and then you probably don't really get to it. Usually you're just building up your Steam library just to build up your Steam library. Although there are times where I'll buy something and play it for a while because it's actually a game I've been looking for. So if it's on my wish list ahead of time, then I get excited. If it's not and I see it and it's like $1.50, I go, well, there's another one for the Steam library that'll just increase my little counter. Sometimes it's fun though to go back and just pick a game that you've bought years ago and just try it out. But the Steam summer sale is there. 20 bucks. It goes a pretty long way. On Monday, we talked about a strange countdown that appeared in Fortnite on the Switch, and a new Tales of game got announced by Bandai Namco. The countdown appeared to signify the version 4.4 update that added the Stink Bomb and the 5 Teams of 20 mode. Undead Collectors says Switch not strong enough is always an excuse to not port a game because it's work. I think Doom and Wolfenstein proves that every game is possible if you do not prefer the same visuals as on PS4 Pro or Xbox One X. And yeah, that's a good point. Listen, the Switch is, for the most part, I'm going to say for the most part, because I think there are instances where there could be an issue, specifically space constraints when you get into some of the MMO RPGs and stuff, the bigger ones. That's why I think we see some stuff just stream it, right? Phantasy Star streams. Dragon Quest X, I believe, streams. And that's just the way it is with space constraints and things like MMORPGs. But for the most part, you're right. If a developer wants to get a game on the Switch, they can technically make it happen. EA is an interesting case because they have an engine that they have not put on the system yet in Frostbite, whereas you have Ubisoft put the Snowdrop engine on there pretty quick, actually, since Mario Rabbids, well, that runs on the Snowdrop engine, and now we have South Park that does the same. So it's going to be up to these different places to put their proprietary engines on there, but at this point, we've seen id Tech on the Switch, we've seen Snowdrop on the Switch, we already know the Unreal Engine 4 works, there's a lot of stuff that works with it, and if EA ever gets to the point where they do drop Frostbite, or they can get it to work, so sometimes maybe they can't get it to work, but I think they could. But we'd have to see how much work goes into it. It always comes back to a return on investment, and EA knows that more than anyone else, right? So yes, in this case, they probably could get Frostbite on there, and you could see other games show up that maybe you didn't think could also, like Panic Button's doing something, and that's going to be fun to see when they're ready to announce that. But hey, when Doom and Wolfenstein showed up, I think a lot of people said, oh, okay, well, maybe that other game I want that I didn't think would be possible is now possible. It's always been possible, but it comes down to, is it worth porting it? That's the big thing. Can they make the money? In most cases, I think they can, as Doom did make the money, and it seems like Wolfenstein 2 will as well, because it had pretty bad receptions on the other platforms. So this might even be a big release for them. We'll see. Tuesday went over serious security measures that are being put in place for Nintendo to detect and ban pirated games on the Switch. These users are using a method that allows for copies of games to be installed without the original game card after the fact. Pokemon Go also finally got a trading function. PickWizard7 says, I am against cheating and piracy, but backup your own games is okay. And this is funny because this is something that you would actually deal with back in the day when it came to backing up your CDs for music, backing up your DVDs, and even backing up your game discs. This was a thing. Backing up your stuff was a legitimate method, I will say that. A lot of people did use it for other things. You take a little paper clip and put it in the PlayStation 1 to think it's open, and you change this disc swap and everything. That was an issue, right? Because then you're pirating games by borrowing them from people. But if they are legitimate backups, backups, for the most part, you were okay. I know there were still a lot of legal battles going on for the companies that would give you stuff to let you rip your games, your DVDs. DVD ripping was a big problem, and I know there was a lot of legal issues back then. But yeah, there was a time where we would be like, I just want to back up my DVD and then put it on the shelf, and I'll have a dummy copy that I don't care if it gets torn up by my kids or something. Not as much now. I mean, yeah, you can do it pretty easily. For the most part, there are a lot of things being built in to the discs at like a programming level, to where things like Synavi, I believe, was one where the audio would cut out after 10 minutes. And it can do that by detecting if you've downloaded it and put it on a USB stick or even burned it. There is protection built in now, and backups for things like games have always had protection. So while the idea of backups is great, most of the time, nobody follows the rules with that. I'm not gonna say not everyone, but most of the time, no one follows them, and it just turns into piracy, and that's kind of the way it is. Lowe says, Matt, banning people from playing online won't have a big impact on piracy. There's nothing they can really do about this now. Too many units already out there. And here's the thing about this. You need to make an example, because you need to make there be a consequence to modding your system. The consequence always is if you go online with a modded system, you're getting banned. That's it. That's it. Like, you're getting banned no matter what you do if you go online with your system. And that's pretty much the only real consequence they can give them if they do want to mod their system, especially as you're saying, Lowe, that there's so many out there. You're absolutely right. But there has to be a consequence, and you also have to protect your player base, because these games, like a Splatoon 2, as we've already seen, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe right now has people online like using these speed hacks to go flying through the courses. You're making the online environment not fun, right? It's just, people get frustrated and they don't want to play anymore, and that hurts, well, your system. And so they need to make it so that you get banned, because there has to be a consequence, and it looks like that's what they're doing. So there's definitely a point to what they're doing, but I do understand what you're saying. There's just so many of these systems out there that can be exploited. They need to get this other chipset done through the production and out, so people can technically move on with this thing, because eventually we'll get to the point where it's like the Dreamcast, where, okay, there were, how many of them? There were 20 million out there or whatever. Not the Dreamcast, obviously. Dreamcast was like, what, 10 million, 12 million or something like that. But with this, we'll be like, okay, we get to the end and there's 70 million out there. 20 million can be modded. That's just kind of the way it is, but there needs to be consequences, and they need to ban people. Wednesday news broke from GameStop that they are exploring a possible buyout with multiple interested parties. A potential buyout could bring in a different party who could help the chain, or could even absorb its stores for something else. Ashley Collins says, if GameStop gets bought out, maybe they'll end up making some changes for the better, perhaps. I have an Elite Pro membership with them, so I better buy the games I want and trade in my points towards some other games before I just up and lose them all. But I hope they don't get bought out and disappear completely. My home GameStop store has nice employees, and they've been cool to me. It's pretty much the only storefront I'll go to for everything gaming. I guess my store is a rare breed of GameStop. Not necessarily. Like, the GameStop near me, there's a lot of them, by the way. There's like 1, 2, 3, there's 4, 5 GameStops in like 6 miles around me, right? Like 6 square miles. They're that close. It's out of control. They don't need all these stores, but they keep them because one's near a college, I guess one's near like a movie theater, and I don't know. Maybe I'm just in the middle of all the GameStops, but not like mine up here at the movie theater. They're actually really cool. They'll call me when something like the Duke controller finally came in. They call me for that. They even let me know about some of the cool stuff that's coming up that's kind of rare, and I'm like, maybe. But they're really cool about that. They'll talk to me when I'm in there, and I usually have a pretty good experience when I go into that GameStop. But I have been to GameStops where it's not been the best, I will say that. So it is a case-by-case basis, because it depends on the people, and that's the big thing here. There are still people working at these GameStops, so whether maybe you don't like GameStop as a corporation, you have to understand there are people behind that counter that are working, 6, 7 hours. Although, to be honest, when I worked at GameStop, I saw some people get 3-hour shifts because hours, but there's still people there working, and they're still trying to make money by doing an honest day's work, right? They're trying. So it's a shame that I do know a lot of people will go online and they will just attack GameStop. But you gotta remember, there are people back there, and I do hope, honestly, just like you, Ashley Collins, that I hope that a company comes in, turns them around, and makes the place successful and a good place to work, and not a place that leans on their customers as much as they do, because it can get kind of annoying if you're a customer and they're constantly, you know, asking you for pre-orders and all this stuff and just leaning on you all the time. It almost makes it like a place you don't want to go. It's just the one up here is really cool, so I do go there a lot just because, and I will give them a pre-order occasionally if it's a game I know I'm going to buy, and I know it helps them out, so I'll do that. Jason Garcia says, hey, did you ever fix your damaged Switch? Just curious if a video was coming out soon about it. I am fixing it. Well, it's not fixing now. We had E3, and then I had this trip that I'm at now, too many games, but I am fixing it. I actually already have the part. It's this little tiny little chip, and then I actually also ordered a reflow station that will help me pull it from the board. Like basically a little chip, and it pops it off, then you put the new one down, heat it, solder it, and then we see what happens. I mean, it can't get any more dead than it is now. It's pretty dead. But yes, that is still happening. Don't worry. It's just there's a lot of stuff going on with E3, too many games stuff. We'll hopefully get this guy all fixed up in July, and hopefully get my save data back. Finally, on Thursday, went over development history that was given from Sakurai in an interview with Famitsu. Some of the details included why he went with an extension of Smash Bros. Wii U and when development started. Mata Dorman says, the fact that Waluigi extremists are attacking Sakurai on Twitter is just flat out pathetic. Give the man a break. Yeah, I know, right? He can't catch a break. He's trying his hardest to make the biggest Smash Bros. Game ever, and people are asking for Waluigi. Look, Waluigi's in Mario Tennis. Go buy that if you haven't already. There you go. You get Waluigi, and you can use him straight up as a playable character. Now, I do know Waluigi has been asked for in Smash before. I know he's an assist trophy, but at this point, if I was Sakurai, I definitely wouldn't be putting him in there now. I would just be like, well, guess who the next character was going to be? And now it's not Waluigi. Now, this is the wrong way to go about asking for it. You can put in requests and you can email them. Seriously, you can email Nintendo and say, I would like to see Waluigi in Smash, and they'll at least, it'll be in their inbox, right? And obviously if they see more and more, yeah, maybe. But at this point, any characters that are coming out on release date or ahead of time, it's done. They've already figured it out, plans were drawn, characters are made, and if he has not already done a Waluigi and he's coming up with a reveal, it's not happening as non-DLC, right? It would be a DLC character, and I don't know how that people would feel, but I always say never say never with this kind of stuff. You never know what could happen. But the fact that he has to block people because they're doing some of the weirdest Photoshop memes is... Actually, that's the internet. I'm not really surprised. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for the Saturday show today. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, guys. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it is Nintendo Switch and its security measures, try to stop hackers online, as we've seen a lot of this happening over the past week. Also, what about all this cross-play stuff that we've already talked about? We talked about it Friday, but I didn't get a chance to get into that. But let me know what you think about any of the cross-play stuff, because I know it's seriously, it's getting all over the place right now with Nintendo and Microsoft really, really pushing on Sony right now with that, because why wouldn't you? I would too if I was them and I had that kind of strategy. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.